welcome. Shabbat Shalom. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect this message. Amen. Amen. Welcome to everybody, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're watching us on YouTube later, TikTok live, you're on the podcast. Shalom, Sister Deborah. Shalom to everybody. Hopefully I can go back to the beginning of the list of these names. Sister Sharice, Minister Tamara, Sister Sonia, Brother Thomas, Finney Pincher, thanks for being on and being part of the community. T, how are you doing? Breezy, Nicole, Sister Barbara, Tamika. Hello, DNB. Amen. All praises. Brother Dennis, Iron, Brother Clem. What is up with everybody on here? Ransom is Mac, I believe. Sister Austral. Everybody who's going to come on later on, we appreciate you. Thank you for your presence today. We are in part 17 of this Revelation series, so that means that there's 16 parts prior to this. So there are some things that obviously we can't talk about just today. And Shabbat, Saturday is usually our shortest session, and it will continue to be such because we have our special Shabbat Shalom podcast that we do on the Podbean app. If you want to join us live, you have to have the Podbean app to do so. Podbean, Podbean app, and you can join us on there at 10 a.m. Eastern New York time. And if you can't join us live for whatever reason, you can always listen to it later on when it is uploaded. And so we're thankful, we're grateful. We give all praise once again and honor to the Most High Yahweh Elohim. We give all praise to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. Shabbat Shalom, Sister Tracy. We give all praise and honor to my family, for our children, for each and every one of you. And those who agree, disagree, etc., feel free to leave whatever questions, comments, or concerns that you would like to leave. All we simply ask is that you be respectful of others and of the community and what we stand for and what the Most High is using us to give. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, if you're on TikTok especially, you can actually use you can use the chat, but then we actually have a question mark box. So if time permits, or when we take a little bit of a break to kind of swing back through and make sure we catch up on these comments, to make sure that I do catch your comment, please make sure you put it in the question mark box, and that'll allow me to be able to go there at different times to look up what's going on. You say, John, nice man, glad to see more people coming on the platform to spread the word. Amen. Thanks for being on as well. So we're thankful and grateful. So once again, this is part 17. So you can go to our YouTube channel, which is #FindKofi, #FindKofi, my name up here, #FindKofi, is in you're looking for, #FindKofi. And once again, check out my wife. You can check her out at BloomNFlourish, not A-N-D, but the letter N, BloomNFlourish. You can find her on TikTok, YouTube, and her website, and also on Pinterest, not A-N-D, but the letter N, BloomNFlourish. She's a herbalist, healer, chemist, biologist by degree, and she has different tinctures, different things to help with your healing, and it's natural medicine. And the tincture of the month is I Am Immune. That helps to be able to make sure that you are taking care of your respiratory system. All right, and we know that it is with cold and everything, and even other diseases that are out there. It's always a tough time during this time of season for many. So no matter where you live, so just make it a point to also take some vitamin C if you can. Vitamin C pills, vitamin C packets, et cetera, et cetera. We're thankful and grateful for you all for doing so. And thank you very much. Oh, yeah. Okay, video 2222. If that's your way of saying hello to you, and I take many of them. And I'm free from having to look like whatever you feel like I have to look like. So thanks for being on, though. Appreciate you. We'll lift you up, even though you come to tear others down. So we're talking about the different things that the different experiences and everything. And hello to Shima, everybody who's coming on. We're thankful for the opportunity to be in front of you once again. As it's interesting, it's disrespectful, but it's all gravy. I come on in complete white, clean white. because my hair doesn't look the way somebody wants me to, their first thing is to say take a shower. But we're thankful and grateful. That's why you always have to be prayed up. You have to be prepared, and you have to know who you are. And like we said, even yesterday we were talking about being captivated. Be captivated with yourself first. So when others who try to come and denigrate you and condemn you, you don't have to worry about being in self-condemnation. We're thankful for those of you. Amen. Thank you, DNB. Yes. Amen. I appreciate that. So we take time out today to get back into the series. Revelation. We're going to go to chapter 17. And we talked about, it's part 17 today. Excuse me. Going to chapter 14. And we're going to see some things. And there's a lot of things, and even on this rising, if I be honest with you, there's a lot of things that came to me today that I've never fully seen, but because of so many things that we put inside of us, the Holy Spirit, she was able to bring things to my remembrance, as we've talked about. And so there were some things that I've never been able to piece together that prayerfully I'll be able to show with you today, and you'll be able to gain some stuff from. Remember, Revelation chapter 1 verse 1 and really Revelation chapter 1 verse 3 tell us as both simultaneously that this is not everybody's revelation, and this is not a revelation for everybody, right? Which is it seems like I'm saying the same thing, but I'm not, right? To further explain what I mean, once again, to give a reminder. So when we say this is a revelation, this is not a revelation for everybody, and this is not everybody's revelation. First and foremost, when I say this is not everybody's revelation, what am I saying there? When I say this is not everybody's revelation, what are we saying? We're saying that this is the revelation of Yashra'al HaMashiach. So this is not me telling you a prophetic word based on revelation, because revelation is a prophetic word. This is not us saying this is the black man's word, because this is not a word that's just for the black man. Matter of fact, Israel, by definition, can't just be said just because you're black, you're Israel. This is not a church revelation, because we are not cirque or circus. This is not a American revelation, because it's supposed to be something that can be able to get Israel and all those who are grafted in from all kindreds and nations and tongues. This is Yashra'al HaMashiach's revelation, right? This is Yashra'al HaMashiach's revelation. It's not our revelation. This is Yashra'al HaMashiach's revelation, right? And this is part 17. We have 16 parts before this. The only part not uploaded to YouTube is actually part 16, which we did yesterday. But everything else through parts 1 through 15 is up for us. I got to double check on actually part 10. For some reason, part 10 is not showing. So I might have to upload that again. Nevertheless, we're thankful and grateful for everybody being on, and we appreciate you. We appreciate those. Once again, as a reminder, those who are on Patreon, we're making sure we're putting out content 5 minutes a day, every single day, bare minimum, and putting out a picture to go along with it so that you might be able to see different things than others are seeing, and some things that I might not be able to get to, or some things I just come across in my personal walk that I might be able to share with you all. So feel free to go there, besides the many videos that are on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube. I got to at some point try to start getting back into uploading something on Twitter from time to time. I haven't done that in so long, but at some point we hope to be able to do that and be a blessing through that format as well. So we thankful, grateful. IG as well. So many different platforms, and as time permits later on, part at some time next month, hopefully, we'll even start doing some stuff on Twitch where maybe once in a while we'll have like a movie. We can do like a movie night or something like that, and we can fellowship together and we can watch some stuff and see what see what we're getting out of some things, or maybe watch some YouTube videos that we've all seen and be able to get into what the Most High has for us. So we're thankful and grateful to everybody. We appreciate it. We're excited to come on here one more again and speak about this word. That the mind is a terrible thing to waste, so it's capable of believing. Amen. Amen. All right. So, and hey, Brother Cole, how you doing? So, here we go. Shabbat Shalom to everybody on this great day. What is it? January the 29th. Thanks for being on. We are continuing to transition from last year, which we were pursuing the promises of the Most High, to now this year where we are living inside of that which we have pursued, right? Making sure that we make a decision and that we are captivated by our decisions, and going through so many different things we've talked about in Revelation. And so this gets us to chapter 17 today. And since we're going to just dive right into this, I'm not going to take too much of your time more. Shabbat Shalom, Tiger. How you doing? So let's go ahead and get into this. Let's go ahead and get into Revelation chapter 14. since we don't have as much time as we normally would. And I'm sorry. Yeah, I said it right. So many different things going through my head. Revelation chapter 14. All right, here we go. Revelation chapter 14. Prayerfully everybody's ready. Prayerfully everybody's energized. Shabbat shalom. Shabbos, I see you on there. Prayerfully everybody's excited. Hopefully you have your word. If you don't, hopefully you're able to listen and meditate. If you're out on the road, if you're out on the road, be careful as you are traveling from one destination to the next. Or even if you're driving, because you might be licensed to drive somewhere, for your job or whatever, we pray that you are being safe. Okay, so here we go. Revelation chapter 14. It says this. It says, and I looked. Now, and going towards something, new statement, but don't forget we're coming from one place to another. So we just finished Revelation chapter 12 talking about Satan, the serpent, the beast, or the serpent. The serpent having a continuation of something that's been going on, right? Daniel chapter 2, Daniel 7, Ezekiel 1, Ezekiel 2, Genesis chapter 3, the book of Exodus, Zephaniah, Zechariah, Matthew, Luke. We've gone through so many different things. 1 Corinthians, we've gone through so many different things to make sure that we're showing this is a continuation of a story. Revelation is usually treated as a one-off, right? Remember, Revelation is not a one-off. It is a continued comprehensive study, right? So Revelation chapter 14, it says in Revelation chapter 12, we've seen that Satan couldn't get to Yashra'al. Yashra'al has gone to the other side of Horakia and the Shemayim. The devil and his angels, the fallen angels, are fighting a war to see if they can get back into heaven and to get really ultimately at Yashra'al, the child that they thought they'd be able to stop and kill. Thank you for the love, Sister Barbara. Right? They weren't able to get there. So since they're not able to get there, what happens? They lose. They come back to earth. Upset, they go after this woman. The woman being Israel. Can I get to Israel? Right? Can I get to Israel? Because Israel is sealed. Right? And therefore there's others that are grafted in of all kindreds and tongues and nations. So since Israel is sealed, tries to get to him, tries to send the water towards him, tries to send the people. He can't send his people to get him. So Israel is protected. Now he sets up something to start attacking the remnant. So Israel's place is protected. These 12 tribes that must be sealed in Revelation chapter 7 is protected. So now looking for the remnant. Israel's place is protected. So the Bible says Satan knows he only has a short amount of time. Since he only has a short amount of time, I'm going to stop as many of the remnant from being able to get into Israel or getting into their spiritual places, Israel, as possible. Even their physical place, if you will, that they should have to where they can pull away from the world. I'm going to do everything I can to try and stop what the Most High has. Even though in Revelation chapter 3, verse 7 and 8, that Yashra'al, having the key of David, being the son of David, he has already opened up doors that no person can shut, no spirit can shut, and close doors and no spirit can open. But nevertheless, that's his goal, is to stop you. And so remember, he has no authority. He can't go to hell. He can't go to heaven. So the only thing he can do is try to get you to give him authority to stop what the Most High has for you. All right. So now we're in Revelation chapter... So now we're in Revelation chapter 13. Revelation chapter 13 puts us in a place where now we've seen in verse 18 of Revelation chapter 12 that Yohanan or John has 1 foot in the people and 1 foot in what the Most High said, and he has his hand up towards heaven. Right, just like the angel who told him to eat the word in Revelation chapter 10, and that angel was looking like the Most High on the throne in Revelation chapter 4. So here in Revelation chapter 13, we have John, who is sitting there, and he's in a position to see things and see how the people are being affected, see how the word is trying to be manipulated, and see what we need to do to make sure that we're holy or holistic. He says that I saw, and he saw this beast come out of the people, this government. And we talked about the government, what the government does. We did a whole thing, I think it's part 15, on just the government in and of itself. We focused on that. And then yesterday for part 16, we went through the process of it actually seeing how this government, tries to project herself all over the place, the authority she's been given by the people get their authority from out Satan. And then there's the second beast, which is the Antichrist spirit that comes to try and make sure that he presses upon people, hey, be about the government. And ultimately, if you're about the government, then you'll be somebody who worships the devil, right? So we saw all those things come to pass. Shalom, D. Gilbert. How you doing? I guess is that Sabrina probably? I think I just realized it's probably Sabrina after all this time. So we're thankful and grateful for all that we went through. We saw the number of the name. We talked about that. For those of you who are on Patreon, I actually made sure if you want to go look at it for yourself, I posted a picture of the of what we had on our whiteboard. Matter of fact, it's still on our whiteboard, right? What we talked about yesterday, talking about the number of a name, right? Even though it's flipped right now because I don't have the mirror image on, but if you want to go and look that up, it's on there. And so we put that up there, as well as we put started a little book list thing for you guys, like we said we were going to. And so we went through all that, and once we finished with that, now we have Revelation chapter 14, right? Now we're at Revelation chapter 14. Where we're going to start today. Okay, so it says, and I looked, right? So after all this has happened, I looked, and lo, my focus was on what? A lamb stood on the Mount Zion, right? So a lamb stood on Mount Zion, right? A lamb stood on Mount Zion. A lamb stood on Mount Zion. It was the same lamb from Revelation chapter 4, chapter 5, the Revelation chapter 6, the only one who was able to open up the seals, the only one who was qualified, right? Who will be able to open up the seal was the question of Revelation chapter 5, and John began to cry because it seemed like nobody was going to be able to do so. And somebody said, hold up, before we do this, look, there's the angel, the lamb, right, who was slain. He's going to be able to open this up. So that's why, once again, Revelation, not a one-off, there's only one person qualified. There's only one person, one spirit, right, one being qualified to open up the seals. So when we're talking about Revelation, that's why Revelation chapter 1 made it a point to say this has to be Yashra'al's revelation. It cannot be anybody else's. It was given to him by Elohim. He is the only one that can open it up and reveal it to us. So if we're not getting it from his perspective, from his culture, his doctrine, his interpretation, then we're not going to be able to interpret this at all. All right? So we have all these things going on. You said something's on the screen in Shabbat Shalom. I don't know. You said something's on the screen. Oh, maybe. I don't know. It is a little, looks like it could be a little messy up there. I don't really have anything to take it off for you right now. But we'll try to remedy that in a little bit. I apologize for that. So, yeah. But, so this is what we're dealing with right now. This is what we're looking into right now. This is what our conversation is based in right now. And that, we're trying to figure out, but we're just basically looking at what the word is telling us. So Revelation chapter 14, this is Yashra'al's revelation. I'm trying to, I did something I can't see. Oh, here we go. Okay, so so this is Yashra'al's revelation, and having Yashra'al's revelation on here, we can see that it's his. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000. Right, so these 144,000 who had to be sealed. This is broken into 12 groups of 12,000 with the 12 tribes of Israel. Right, we see that in Revelation 7. It makes it very clear. Right. Oh, okay. Sorry, you can't get your TikTok up. Yeah, I think they're trying to do something on TikTok weird because we're getting less and less people. We're at 30-something people today, and we were always, way more than that the last few days in a row. It's all gravy, though. That's something that's expected. We go up and down, up and down, up and down. But thank you for being on and bouncing to the podcast, Sister Tracy. So here we have Revelation chapter 14, where it says that it's 144,000 having his, and watch this. It says his father's name, right? Having his father's name, the source's name on their forehead. So we said that Israel must be sealed. They must have some kind of mark, some kind of tov on there. And this tov now we're seeing is the father's name, the father's authority, right? The father's name, the father's authority, right? That authority is Yahweh, right? That authority is Yahweh, right? That authority is what? Is Yahweh. So that authority is what again? Is Yahweh. So having the Father's authority, having the Father's name, having the Father's authority, having the Father's name, having what? The Father's authority, having the Father's name on their forehead. So Israel, in Revelation chapter 7, must be sealed. They have to have a tav, right, a mark, and then it says that this represents his name, his authority. So they are authorized to be sealed. Yahweh, once again, this is why you got to be honest about it. We have to have honest conversation. And people want to call us reverse racist or say whatever about it. The fact of the matter is you're dealing with Revelation chapter 2, verse 9, which tells us that there are people who say they are Israel and are not. Revelation chapter 2, verse 9 goes from there to going past that to saying that, not only there are people that say they're Israel and are not, but you think that you are poor, you really are rich. Revelation chapter 2, verse 12, you start reading there about the assembly of Pergamos, it starts saying, stop worrying about certain doctrines. The doctrine of Balaam is designed specifically to attack who Israel is. All right. Revelation chapter 3, verse 7 says that Yashra'al is holy, he is true, and he holds the key of David. Revelation chapter 3, verse 9 says, Israel, you got to be ready to teach and be ready to preach, because not only are you the chosen, but there are going to be people who are going to come and sit at your feet, and he's going to make sure that as they come, the reason they're coming because they're going to realize what? That legally, lawfully, and as a parent, as a husband, whatever parable type mentality you want to use, right? At the end of the day, he wants to show that I have always loved you. Revelation chapter 7, then he says you got to be sealed so that others can be grafted in. So now here we are, Revelation chapter 14, that they had to have, that there's this 144,000 Israel who must be sealed, and then it says that they must have his name. What does the Bible say? If my people who are called by my name would humble themselves, called by my authority, would humble themselves. See, it's not a one-off. It's a continued conversation. And people are telling us all these different weird things about Revelation, and they're not being honest about the fact and saying truly it being true, which is, hey, this is not a new thing, right? This is not a New Testament. It is one testament. It is one conversation. It is one vision. It is one goal to get those who lost what they were deemed to be originally and make sure that they are redeemed, and to have the redeemed of the Lord say so. It is the same conversation. All right. Now, and I heard a voice from heaven, the phone. Remember in Greek, even it's talking about phone. So I heard a voice. I picked up the phone from heaven. Right. I heard a voice from heaven. Right. So I listened to the voice as the voice of many waters, as a voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. Now, here's something that's awesome, because remember we talked about revelation is revelation, to rejoice in. So when you see these harps are going to be doing something. Now, these harps, once again, not a one-off. We have to have continued culture and continued conversation within our culture. If I see these harps or I hear these harps, what did harps do? Why were harps used musically? What was the intention if somebody pulled out a harp and played? See, we don't know this, but when somebody pulled out a harp to play, what was a harp for? See, every instrument is for something different. What is a harp for? See, we got to think about these things. A harp is a percussive instrument, right? In other words, you're hitting it with something or plucking it with something, right? But you're making some kind of tension, right? And so it's a percussive instrument. You're hitting it, right? That's why the piano is a percussive instrument inside of a piano. You're right. If you open up a piano and you looked inside, you would see hammers inside hitting it. When you press a lever down, it hammers stuff. That's actually an African instrument. A lot of people don't know. It started off in Africa, made its way to Europe when they started bringing things over to Europe, the Moors and people like that. So it's a percussive instrument we've been using forever, right? But when somebody has a harp, right, you can say, yeah, some people go to tuning chakras, things like that. It can, because of vibration and all that, and different frequencies and that are used for each note. C is usually the instrument that everybody uses because they like to be around, 440, even though it's like 443 or whatever is the real one. But, we like to go to that one, etc. A has a different one than E. And then if you go from A down to an octave down, then it's a lower frequency. And so it means that you're having more of this. But if you go A and you go an octave up, it's going to be tighter, right? So that's part of it. A harp also is used, when you know how to use it correctly, a harp is used to soothe those who are vexed. Okay, so if you're going through any type of vexation, or you're in a vexed state of mind, the harp was used to be able to calm you down. This is why when King Saul was frustrated with things, even if he didn't like David, he still would hire David, even though he knew David was somebody who had been prophesying he was going to take over his throne. So but he didn't like David, but even still, even when trying to kill David, he would still invite David to come in and play the harp. Why? Because David was able to play the harp in such a manner that it soothed his vexed soul, his vexed state of mind. So these people pull out harp. So here in heaven, we have the harp being pulled out, which means that we're realizing that there are people who are coming in with all types of stuff, but we need to make sure. The Bible says that in Revelation, it says in heaven, there's going to be no more war, rumors of war. The former things will have passed away. There'll be no more tears, all these things we say. So guess what? The harp is playing to make sure that it soothes anything that might try to vex you. And that's why we need to stop worrying about getting to heaven before things are going to get better. And we need to make sure that heaven, the kingdom of heaven, is inside of you. Because once heaven is inside of you and the kingdom and the statutes are inside of you, then there can be some harps playing inside of you. There can be some types of spiritual things playing inside of you that will allow you to not be vexed anymore. Amen. So we see this harp playing, right? In the midst of the beast is trying to do this, in the midst of the Antichrist spirit is trying to do this, in the midst of all this things. Remember we even talked about a spot in Revelation where all these things are going on, and yet it says that in the midst of that, your prayers are still being answered, right? They're still being listened to, yeah, right? So your prayers being listened to, and the things that are vexing you. And so in this sixth woe, sixth trumpet, in this second woe rather, the Most High is reminding us that even though you're vexed, He has something for you. He's there to make sure, to ensure that you're not getting off track, that you're not feeling too oppressed, that you're not feeling like you can't make it, that you're not feeling like all you can do is just try to go through. You're not feeling like the world. You don't have to be in the world, or if you're dealing with being in the world, you don't have to be of it, right? Like there are some things playing to make sure that you're not vexed. All right, verse 3, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne. So they sung as if it were a new song. They sung a song that, right, it could be one of two ways. It's hard to kind of translate this correctly, so I'm gonna have to just put a disclaimer here. I'm going to give you two things because I don't really know which one. There might be somebody that might be able to tell you which one it is. I'm just going to tell you I don't really comprehend it, so I'm not going to lie to you and say that I do. Right? However, it says they sung as if it were a new song. Now we know there's going to be an old song that's going to pop up called the Song of Moses. We're going to get to that in a little bit, right? But it said that they sung as if it were a new song. They sung what? As if it were a new song. Now, when it says they sung as if it were a new song, what are they saying? They sung either a song that John doesn't really recognize, so he's like, hey, it probably is new, or they sung as if it were a new song. They were singing the same song of Zion that they always sing. However, they were singing it with a new passion. Right, so I don't know which one it is. If they're singing the song, John didn't recognize it, so he said they sung as if it were a new song. Or I don't know if he's saying that they're singing the same thing, but with a new passion. Either way, the new passion is there because there's a harp playing, and so things that are vexing them are being taken away. So when they sing this new song, to sing, to proclaim, right, to sing, to revel, to rejoice, to sing, to come together as one voice, they're coming together with one interpretation, with a new zeal. Right, and they sung as if it were a new song before the throne. Not everywhere, but where? In a specific position. Staying in position before the throne, right? And before the four beasts we talked about are the four ways of governance that happen with the kingdom of heaven, right? In Revelation chapter 4. And the elders, we talked about 24 elders, 12 tribes of Israel, 12 apostles, okay? And no man, no spirit could learn that song, but here's the key now, because people keep saying, it doesn't matter where you come from, this, that, or whatever, but your word doesn't say that. Here it goes again. It's going to make a demarcation. It's going to say no one could understand that song, but except for the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. So Israel has a song that Israel has always sang, and that Israel is going to continue to sing, and Israel's going, or a song that's just for Israel that Israel doesn't even fully comprehend yet. Either way, they're going to sing a song that no person is going to be able to understand unless they're of Israel. How you doing, Andrew? Like that's your word. That's your Bible. Read your Bible. It'll bless you. That's not, once again, this is not a revelation of Kofi. This is not a revelation of the black man. This is not a revelation of the humankind. This is not a revelation even of Israel. It is a revelation of Yashra'al HaMashiach. Revelation chapter 1, verse 1. It's something we're supposed to rejoice in. Chapter says, my interpretation of the tone of the song was, or song just with renewing faith. Okay, amen. Thank you very much for the likes and the shares and all that. I appreciate it. Thanks, Shabbos, for that. Right? So it says there's a song here. He says as if it were maybe a new melody, but same lyrics. So it could be that as well. That's actually another great way to look at it, right? For those who don't know what she's talking about, there's a difference between a melody, and so the melody, like you could go, I don't know, a melody could, I don't know, like there's come, like, I don't know. So, come, let us adore him. Kneel down before him. Worship and adore him. Right? So that's the words in the melody. Right? But if I change the melody, I could change it like, come, let us adore him. Kneel down before him. I've said the same word, but I changed the melody. So you might not recognize the melody, but you recognize the words. So it could be that as well. That's a great point, Sister Sabrina. Either way, right? This whatever this is, it's reserved for the 144,000. It's reserved for the 144,000. No matter what it is, it's reserved for the 144,000. Which means that it's reserved for those in chapter 7, because chapter 7 tells us who the 144,000 is. That's why when you hear people saying all this stuff, oh, the 144,000 is this. I know when I was a Jehovah's Witness, it was the 144,000 are those who, since there's only a few of them that are left, they have to have communion. Nobody else can really have communion. And once, everything's finished, then they'll be able to go into heaven, right? Because they're Russellites, going off of what Charles Russell said. People tell you 144,000, a lot of different things. People tell you the 144,000 is our group of people. Matter of fact, we're going to have to deal with some of that to make sure we comprehend this today, because there's going to be some things that if you're not careful, they become confusing, right? That, like somebody asked me, I forget who it was, are the 144,000 just men? We're going to have to get into that today and give you a further answer today, because if not, we're going to get lost in this, right? So 144,000, which were redeemed from the earth, right? So once again, Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9. Hey, you were deemed as something, but you need to be redeemed. What are we talking about? There are people that you think you are poor. You deemed yourself, and the world has deemed you as poor. Really, you must be redeemed. Really, you are rich. There are those that say that they are Hebrew and are not. You have been deemed as not being Israel. Reality is that you must be redeemed to realize who you were the whole time. Why? Revelation chapter 3 verse 7 says that I have the key of David. Revelation 3:9 says I have to show the world that I've always loved you. You have been deemed as unloved, but I have to redeem you. Revelation chapter 7, you must be sealed. Revelation chapter 14 now, it says that seal that's on there, that tub, that mark that's on their foreheads, it is of the name, the authority of the Most High, and it says it's for the 144,000. We keep believing that the Bible is is everybody's Bible, everybody's revelation, and that it's for and it's a revelation for everybody, that is for those that are sealed, and therefore those who can be grafted in. Period. It's been a continued conversation. Matthew 24, continued conversation. Ezekiel, Daniel, continued conversation. Isaiah, continued conversation. It has not changed. Hosea, we've mentioned as well. Continued conversation. It's been one conversation, but everybody keeps trying to break it up so that they can fit it into whatever their religiosity is, and we must be careful so that we remain sealed. All right. Verse 4. These are they. So who are the 144,000? Now I'm going to break it down even further. Once again, I don't have to prophesy about a prophetic word. If it's a prophetic word, it's already prophesied. Right? We can possibly go over communion in a little bit. Give me a second, Henry. I'll try to see if I can remember it. If I don't remember it now, when I come back to the question mark box, I will. Because that is something that we can talk about. I did mention it, so just give me a sec. All right. We got a short amount of time on Saturdays, so just give me a second. But so these, who are these? These are the 144,000. So when it says these, it's really saying the 144,000 are they which are not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These, are you all right? All right. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits of Elohim, and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of Elohim. Now we got to deal with this real quick, because some people will go, all right, well, since this is since there's so many different things going on, right? Maybe we're, you'll hear something, and so if you're not culturally accurate and you're not continuing this conversation, now we get into a weird place. So what's going on here? It says these are men. So you would go, oh, okay, these are men. Problem with that is, though, are we dealing with earth or are we dealing with heaven? Right? If this was upon the earth, we could talk about men as in being males. But are we talking about earth or are we talking about heaven? Somebody gonna have to help me out with this in the chat real quick. Just all you got to do is type up one or the other. Is this Revelation where we're at now? Because starting Revelation chapter 4, John said I was in heaven. Right? So are we talking about earth or are we talking about heaven? Somebody help me real quick. Are we talking about earth? Or are we talking about heaven? See, this is where we got to get the comprehension. Where are we now? When we get to Revelation chapter 14, where are we dealing with? In earth or heaven? Exactly. Thank you, Minister Tamara. We're dealing with heaven. So if we're dealing with heaven, in heaven, you said earth? No, we're dealing in heaven, right? It says, because watch this, these are, we can even read it. There was 144,000, verse 1, having their names written in the forehead. Verse 2, I heard a voice from heaven, right? There were many waters and a voice great thunder, and I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. Verse 3, and they sung as if it were a new song before the throne and before the beast and the elders, and no man could learn the song but the 144,000 which were where? Which were redeemed, where? From the earth. So we're not on earth at this point. We're in heaven, right? We got to make sure, even, I know it's spiritually, but geographically, so to speak, right? We have to make sure we're in the right place, right? So if this is in heaven, we know in our culture, biblically speaking, it says that there is no male. This is Yashra'al that brought this out as well. In our culture, there is no male nor female in heaven, nor is there marriage, or is there even being given away in marriage. Amen. Right? So we know, culturally speaking, that there is no, in heaven, there is neither male nor female. So when it's talking about men, it's trying to get you to comprehend something. See, we got to make sure, because it can be very confusing. So it's giving us a parable. We're thinking, right? We're dealing with a dream too. Visions, things like that mean different things, but it's giving you a parable. So we're in heaven. There's no male nor female, but they're trying to use a very human type of experiential detail to get you to comprehend what's going on. Now, the reason why also too this is hard for us to comprehend is because we're in such a chauvinistic society, right? And we're before the throne as well. Great point, Minister Tamara, right? So if you're before the throne, you're in heaven. Now, we're so used to, in our society, or at least a society we're trying to be in but not of, a lot of us were raised of a society, though, to where when you hear virgin, thank you, Sister Crystal, I see you. When you hear the word virgin, what you actually start to do is you start to say, oh, okay, virgin means woman. That's all we think about, Virgin Mary, virgin this, but virgin is not something that's beholden to woman. I'm not saying that we don't know that, but I'm saying our first mindset, whether male or female, we will usually just think virgin, okay, woman. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't think about male. Even males who are virgins don't like to have anything. Like, if a woman says I'm a virgin, we think of that as being a virtuous thing. If a man says they're a virgin, we actually be like, oh, you a virgin? For real? What's wrong with you? You ain't had none yet? Like, that's the society that a lot of us were raised in. If not all of us, if we be honest, we're raised in, right? So, but here, virgin does not necessarily mean male or female either. In our culture, in the Bible, right, we know it can be applied to a male or female, but virgin in and of itself is not talking about male or female. Now, also, when you study this word, where they get virgin from, you'll discover that virgin is not just talking about a woman or a man that hasn't had sex, but it's also talking about somebody who has not been defiled outside of their culture, right? Somebody who has not taken on things like idols and things like that. If you are into idol worship, you wouldn't have been considered to be a virgin either. You see that? Because you have to be pre-qualified to be a husband and pre-qualified to be a wife. So if you were a woman out there who hadn't had sex yet, however, you were messing around with idols, you could not be, by definition, a virgin. And if you were a man who was out there who had not had sex yet, but you were messing around with idols, you could not be considered a virgin. So this is not talking about these are men that didn't have sex with women. This is talking about a group of people who had not gone outside of Israel, had not gone outside of the kingdom, had not gone outside of what Yah's word said. They had lived in a pious and righteous fashion the entirety of their existence, and so they were able to be redeemed from the earth. Now, I won't say the entirety, right? Because also, too, I got to be careful with word usage, right? We have to be careful with word usage, because when we go into word usage, here's another thing that happens. So I don't want to say entirety. That's the wrong word. Forgive me, Jan. Y'all forgive me, please. Not entirety, because no person except Yashra'al ever was perfect at everything that they did, were they? Not one. Not one person never made a mistake, correct? So it's not saying these people never sinned. It's saying that these people had gotten into the kingdom and had begun to make sure that they were not defiled. So watch this. Let's say somebody was out there either having sex or worshiping idols or doing whatever, right? They could still go to a place of repenting and become chaste again and actually become considered a virgin again. But you had to go through a process. So like when people ask me, hey, I've been married, is there a way, I can make sure that I'm dead? Yeah, go start purifying yourself. Start getting back into the word. Start praying some things off of you. Start making sure you set up some boundaries. Start asking for forgiveness of sins. Start making sure that you comprehend what it is to be a wife or a husband this next time. So when you come together, you can go back and be in a virgin status. See, in our mind, once the blood has been dealt with on the hymen, right, and it pours out, it's over. Right, but your virginity is not only tied to your sexuality, right? To be pure. So that's why you even get, people will have arguments sometimes too in our culture, in our community. You'll have arguments that go in and say, well, Mary, and it says she was a virgin, that doesn't even mean, in the Afrocentric community especially, you'll have people go, well, Mary being a virgin, that doesn't mean that Mary hadn't had sex before. Well, kind of, sort of, but she couldn't. The reason why Joseph was going to divorce her was because she was pregnant with child. That meant that she had had sex. So that's what it's talking about with her, to where she was supposed to have not had sex. But she was supposed to be somebody who was pure and never had sex before. Yeah, that's part of the equation. But they're also right in reading the other part. They're being incomplete too. We can't be incomplete on either side. We can't say, well, virgin just means woman who hasn't had sex, or possibly man that doesn't have sex, and not talk about the fact that you had to be pure and everything. The reason why Mary was allowed to raise Yashra'al and have Yashra'al come through her was because that she was considered to be chaste in all areas. Once again, she was not just chaste in some, right? That would be cognitive dissonance. She was a holy woman, right? Which means she was whole in how she approached the word of Yah. Amen. Didn't it say comprehension in the seal? The air conversation of the mind. Right? So when we see this term here about men, right, and them being virgins, remember, in heaven there's neither male nor female. So we're not talking about men like we're thinking. We're talking, it's trying to give you an example of these 144,000 who are on the throne, and these 144,000 is trying to get you to think of these people are chaste. These spirits are chaste. Remember, even the word man actually just means spirit, right? So we have to think contextually, right? They won't give you these things. They'll write it in English, and the English is very incomplete, and it doesn't really interpret. And we're not even speaking the actual English that was original English either, which means that we're getting further and further away. We're speaking like a bastardized language. No, there's this place that you have to get to and realize and think about and be in tune with. Okay, so Revelation chapter 14. So we know who these are, right? These are people. This is Israel. And by the way, why is it saying men too? Here's another thing too. Let's just go ahead. Thank you, Holy Spirit. I was about to run past this, and this was something that blew my mind this rising. I never put together, so forgive me. Do not forget See, we got to not think of these things as one-offs. This is a continued conversation. Remember, when this was written, there would have been no chapters and verses. It would have just been one written thought, right? We use chapters and verses now because other cultures did, but we didn't used to use that before. It was always one continued thought, right? So when you look at this, though, in Revelation chapter 12, I'm sorry, Revelation chapter 2 and verse 12, you get to this assembly of Pergamos that we talked about that has the Balaam doctrine and has that Old Testament, New Testament, Nicolaitan doctrine. The Balaam doctrine is to be against Israel. Nicolaitan doctrine gets you stuck on Old New Testament. Now here comes after that the assembly of Thiatera, the fourth assembly. And what is their issue? Their issue is that there's this woman, this spirit, this feminine spirit, right? It doesn't mean that a male or female can't have it because it's a spirit. Spirits are not male nor female, but they can be masculine or feminine. There's this feminine spirit named what? Jezebel. And Jezebel has called herself a prophetess, even though as far as Yah's concerned, she's just a plain woman because she ain't doing righteousness. And she has had people, sleep with her and fornicate with her and lay down in the bed with her, to pervert what the Most High is doing. And these people are supposed to be Israel. Israel is supposed to be the feminine spirit that represent the wife, which means not only is there some stuff where the wife is cheating on her husband, but now you're getting into some lesbian type stuff, right? It's a perversion of perversions, right? It's getting to a place where people are doing stuff that doesn't even make sense and has no fruit even coming out of it. And so he said there to the fourth assembly, if you keep laying down with her, there's going to be some consequences because I'm going to allow her to be killed off. And she's going to have to go away. She can't be in eternity. He told us that in Revelation chapter 4. You said, but how do you explain the phrase, who had not been defiled by women? So once again, are we talking about heaven or are we talking about earth? It's a different thing. If we're going to use it, and we're reading it in English too, right? But it's trying to get us to comprehend and not be defiled by women. Now, also, here's another key that was put on there as well, Sister Prina. When somebody, once again, is in this lesbian thing, they are what? It's not just that you were having sex with them, but it also is what? When somebody laying down with somebody else is what? Being defiled as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Remember, because we get into a place to where we have to comprehend you're having the dream, you're having the vision, you're having the culture, you're in heaven. There's a lot of different things that are going on, right? And also we're reading in somebody else's language. But once again, that's something where we have short amount of time. I would just say study to show yourself. This might be something that many of us never heard. It can be a confusing thing. So, but if people are going to say the 144,000 are just nothing but men, because that's where the only place we have left to go. A lot of people are trying to box us into this place where, okay, so the 144,000 have to be men, right? But why is it even using the term men? What does man mean? What does human mean? Does man mean like you can be a male man or a female man? Because man is not right. Like every female is a man. How about we say it like this? Every female has a man because she has a spirit, and every male has a man because he has a spirit. Right, but the man means spirit. The humus is the flesh part. The humus comes in male or female. The humus, the dark, rich, nutrient earth, that comes in male or female. The man is a spirit, and in heaven there's neither marriage, nor is there male or female. How you doing, teacher? Thanks for being on. Right, so it's a different way of comprehending what's going on. I'm sorry, I'm gonna do Philippians real quick, and then I gotta. We already falling behind on time, but let me see if I can do Philippians real quick. What was it? Philippians chapter 3, verse 21? Because it's not clicking in my brain. I'm sorry. Because I think we got less than half an hour left, something like that. All right, Philippians chapter 3, verse 21. Who shall change our vile body, that it may be fashioned like unto his glorious body, according to the working whereby he is able even to subdue all things to himself. Okay. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. All right. Yeah. So who shall change our vile body, that it may be fashioned like unto his glorious body, according to the works whereby he is able. Yeah, so that's talking about the redeeming process. But if we were talking about the glorious body or the incorruptible, that would neither be male nor female. So that does tie in. You know, we'd have to go a little deeper into that. But yeah, that does tie in. We'd have to go a little before that verse and after that verse to kind of get that as well. But yeah, that's definitely a great thought process as far as tying that in, right? So here we are at Revelation chapter 14. So study that, you know, look at some things. You don't necessarily have to agree. I'm just trying to put some stuff out there culturally. You might not have heard it before, right? It doesn't mean that it's not true, you know, but study it for yourself. So, and then it says after that, and I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting, you know, the term here used gospel, but basically the everlasting word, the everlasting gift of the Most High, that is something that will bless us and produce fruit, to preach, to proclaim unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people. All right. So we were in heaven. And we're talking about the special place. We already talked about this, by the way, when we were talking about a place during the 1,260 years where Israel was going to have to be in a place to where she was trodden underneath, right? She was covered up, right? She was enslaved. She was going through the generational, the Deuteronomy 28, verse 15 through 68 curses, generational curses, all these things, right? From 538 to 1798. We talked about that. We see all these things going in order, everything working out right, but then it says like, so remember, Israel had a place that was off to herself. Right now in heaven, we see that there's a place specifically for Israel to be, and there's a song Israel will have that no other people will have. This song, right? Won't be able to comprehend. Just reading the word, right? It says, and I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven. So another angel fly in the midst of heaven, and says that now there has to be this once again, remember we talked about this already, to go from the sixth trumpet to the seventh trumpet, to go from the second woe to the third woe. This gospel, according to Matthew 24, verse 14, this gospel, or this word, this interpretation must be preached throughout all the earth, right? And it says, saying with a loud voice, fear Elohim. So here's part of the message that we must give to people. Not, he wants everything to be nice, not just be saved and that'll be it, not be covered by the blood and all that. I'm not saying that that's not part of it, but this is what it says here. This is part of this is what we need to give to everybody else who's going to be grafted in. Israel has her place set. Anybody who's going to remember, like look at the terms. Israel, these 144,000 are those who have been redeemed, right? They were deemed one thing, but they've been redeemed from the earth. Now the message must go from those who have been deemed and redeemed from the earth. They must give a message now that they're sealed. Through them must come a message to those who are on the earth of all nations, kindreds, and tongues, and people, giving them out. And that's what they're referred to even in as Revelation chapter 7. Continue conversation, saying what? This is what we're supposed to say with a loud voice, boldly. Fear Elohim, that means respect him, and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. That sounds like John the Baptist, doesn't it? That sounds like Yashra'al, doesn't it? All right. For the hour of his judgment is come. Right? And worship him that made heaven and earth and sea and the fountains of waters. Verse 8, and there followed another angel, another messenger now, saying, Babylon is fallen. Is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink wine of the wrath of her fornication. So Babylon has fallen. Babylon is part of what? The beast, the government, one of the seven heads, right? So when we're talking about Babylon, when we talk about Rome, when we talk about Persia, when we talk about the bear, when we talk about the lion, when we talk about the leopard, right? All these things we talk about, we're talking about the beast, the government, the same government that's been informed. So now when it's called Babylon, Babylon is just what? A government, a beast. Right, part of the beast. It's one of the beasts from Daniel chapter 7. It's one of the beasts from Daniel chapter 2. It's one of the beasts from Ezekiel 1 and 2. We're talking about the same conversation. So we are supposed to go around in a loud voice and say, hey, get it together, respect the Most High, give him glory, right? And for the hour of his judgment is about to arrive. We say it with a loud voice to everybody all over the earth, right? And because why? Because Babylon is done. That rock that was formed in the dream Nebuchadnezzar had in in Daniel chapter 2, that rock that hit the statue and had the statue explode. Babylon is already done. We know this is coming up. Right? We have to give this one message around the earth. Verse 9, and the third angel, another angel came and followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast, this is what we were just talking about yesterday in Revelation 13, what we talked about the day before when we focused on just the beast in and of itself. Really, when we focus on Revelation chapter 12, the day before that, focused on Satan and how he's trying to use the people to get to Israel, but he can't get to Israel, so he's picking off the remnant so they can't get the position Israel should be in. It says, if any man worship the beast and his image, that's what the Antichrist gets people to do, is worship his image, and receive his mark on their forehead. So we started off with a mark for Israel, and those will be grafted in through Israel being marked, sealed, having his name on their forehead, his authority on their forehead. That's what name is, his Shem, his name, his authority, right? So if anybody's outside of Israel and won't have his name, his authority on them, won't be grafted in, won't listen to the message that's coming through Israel, what's going to happen? And right, it says if you don't have it and you decide to have the beast mark or worship his image and receive his mark on your forehead or your hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, right? Righteous indignation, his anger. Right? There's a judgment that's going to come. There's a consequence. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of what? The holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. Now, once again, we got to get this together because this is something that's weird for some to hear, because for many of us, we believe that, once again, Satan is in charge of hell. But it says when you're going through the fire and the brimstone, who has the authority? Who's going to watch over you? It says this is going to be in front of the Lamb and in front of the Lamb's angels. All the stuff we've been talking about. You see how it's going together? We have to have a different comprehension. Salah. So does the Bible mention the population of the culture? I don't comprehend. I mean, 144,000 we talked about before. It's not really talking about a specific number per se, as much as talking about its finite. Now, 12, if you look at number 12, 12 is kingdom. 12 is a mention of tribes. The 12th character, if you will, is Lamed, which means to be under the shepherd. So those who are under the great shepherd, those who are his sheep, right? But then you have 12 times 10,000. Remember, two people can come together, give flight to 1,000, but 3 people can come together to give flight to 10,000. So you're having this 10,000 mentality, a group of people coming together under the same thing times 12. You're getting that to 12,000. Then you have 12 tribes that each have that mentality, 144,000. And so I'm in a finite group of people who have a promise that must be sealed. Right, a specific people is giving you a finite number, but to everybody else, their number is actually greater than the 144,000. But they can't come in unless the finite promise that was made to Israel is taken care of. So that's really what the numbers are doing. They're more representation than anything else. How you doing, Pastor Hamilton? Thanks for being on with us. Babylon, the beast, the government is fallen. Amen. Is that, how do you say your name? Is it Awilu? Awila? I'm sorry. Thanks for being with us. I apologize. I try to get as many names as I can under my belt. But, so those are things that are going on right there. So that's why that 144,000 is really mentioned more than anything else. Once again, this is part 17. So if you want to go on YouTube, if you want to go on the podcast, if you want to go, on Facebook, a little bit on IG and look up some of this stuff we've gone over, feel free to do so. All right. So it says they'll drink the wrath of Elohim. Verse 11, and the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night. So it's going to be torment all day, all night, right? Only for what? Those who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. This is the beast's name, the beast authority. Where does the beast get his authority? From the people. Where do the people get their authority? From out Satan. Where does out Satan get his authority? He has to ask the people to allow him to possess them, right? So anybody who's in that loop of things, that's who's going to be tormented both day and night. Verse 12, here is the patience. Now we've seen this before already pop up, right? We saw this pop up already. Here is the patience of the saints. I can't remember exactly where. I feel like it's Revelation chapter 13 verse 7 says that it was given unto him to make war with saints and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Let him hear that has ears to hear what he says, or let him hear, rather. Verse 10 of Revelation 13 says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. That's where it is. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is patience and the faith of the saints. Now we have this coming back again, right? So just in case you didn't get it, because we have some people ask questions about this. So just in case you didn't get it, right? Yashra'al is like, hey, make sure you send the message to John, and John, make sure you give the message to the messengers, and messengers, make sure you give this to the people. I want you to give it to them again, just in case they didn't get it the first time, right? If you are of Israel, there's a specific place and song for you, because there's a promise over you. If you're of the world and you hear the message and you decide to come out of the world and be grafted in, there's a place for you as well, right? But it has to come through Israel being sealed. If you decide to be about the beast of the government, though, and do what the government says and worship him and worship people and worship Satan ultimately, then guess what? You are going to have to deal with torment. That's the consequence. And it says once again, so here is the patience. This is why the saints are patient. This is why Israel, this is why you must be patient. This is why those who will be grafted in, this is why you are patient. Why are you patient? Because we keep the commandments of Elohim and have faith in Yashra'al, because we already know that the time is at hand. So we ain't tripping. Exactly, Krista, the lambs and angels, right? So we ain't tripping over this stuff, because we already know what's coming. That's why it's a revelation to us, because revel means to rejoice. We rejoice in what the other people are afraid of. We're not afraid. They're afraid. We rejoice in what others are afraid of. Okay, all right. So now we go on. Let's see. Verse 13, and I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, write what? Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. So why do we not fear death now? We say we got patience and stuff. Now we don't fear death. Why don't we fear death? Why are we not worried about death? Well, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord. Those who just die. Just those who be on some stuff. Well, they might have to worry about some things. But those of us that die because we're doing what we're supposed to. Matthew chapter 5, verse 3 tells us that, the kingdom of heaven belongs to us. Even those who were poor in spirit at one point, it still belongs to us, right? Revelation chapter 5, verses 10 through 12 tells us that even when they revile us and say all men are evil against us and do all types of stuff against us, we should rejoice and be exceeding glad. Why? They did the same thing to the prophets that came before us. So even if they get to you for some reason, right? Or even if Yah says, you know what, I'll allow for my glory for you to be a martyr if that's what's necessary. Don't fear death. Don't worry about death, right? Why? Because Revelation chapter 14, verse 15 said, Revelation chapter 14, verse 13, John wrote out and told us, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord. And he did it because of the voice, the phone, right? Blessed are those who die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, or that means even saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors and their works do follow them. Wait a minute. Somebody said that your works don't matter. You see? Faith matters. It said here's the patience and the faith of the saints, right? It said here's the patience of the saints and the faith that they have in Yahshua HaMashiach, right? The faith in Yahshua's revelation. But then it says, hey, you got to have some works. Faith without works is dead. It says your works follow you. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm sorry, Sister Tracy. Yeah, so maybe we can talk about it offline, or, if you get a chance to listen to the recording. I got to rush it today because we only have a little bit of time before we take our little break before we jump back on the podcast. But if you want to ask some questions or put something in there or whatever, I can possibly get to it. And if we have a little time left at the end. Owilu? Okay, Owilu. Okay. Amen. I'll try to remember. Forgive me if I say it wrong a couple times. All right, so we literally have this. It's in there, right? It's in there, right? Where your work, it says in his works will follow him. Well, wait a minute. It says that your work. Somebody's always telling me your works don't matter. It's only by faith. It's only by faith, right? It's only by faith. So you need to comprehend. You got to understand. You got to realize. You got to recognize what's going on, right? So it says what? The same shall, I'm sorry, where are we at? Verse 13, right? So yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. Verse 14, and I looked, and behold, a bright cloud, and upon the cloud sat like unto the Son of Man. Who is the Son of Man? Yashra'al. All right? So, having on his head a golden crown, he's the king, right? And their works do, and in his hand a sharp sickle. A sickle, something that's used to harvest. That's what you guys see. By the way, it's a perversion. When you guys see death, you guys have seen those things before where death has his hood and you can't see death's face and it's always dark in there. And then there's this, and he always has a sickle in his hand, right? Either like this or like this, right? And you would use the sickle to harvest. So he's supposed to harvest the dead when it's time for somebody to die. He comes up and he shows up after your death, right? He's supposed to control death or be like the ferryman. That's coming from another culture, right? Another culture who's played on ours. So that's Greek people and then Roman people. They would say that, there was this ferryman. You paid your two stuff and, your pennies or whatever to him. And he would take you from, this place of limbo, which is where, you get people who do in the Roman Catholicism, they have that, you got heaven, you got hell, and then they got that place of limbo in between. This is all these cultures being mixed in, right? But here it's Yashra'al who has the sickle. And we don't need to worry about him having his face covered up. We know who he is, right? We know who he is. His face is not covered up. We know who he is. And we know that he's coming to harvest. Now, this, once again, not a one-off. Go to Matthew chapter 13 when you have a chance. I believe you got to start somewhere around, I hate to guess on you guys, but I want to say like somewhere around verse 16, 17, 18, somewhere where I start talking about the parable of the wheat and the tare that are planted together. And it says that Yashra'al is going to come out and he's going to be the one to make sure he gets the harvest, and he's going to send his angels out and stuff like that. He says, don't worry about separating the wheat from the tare. I got that, right? That's the sickle. Now he shows up in Revelation with the sickle. You see, this is not a one-off. It's a continued conversation, right? We think of it as a one-off, as a continued conversation. He told you what was going to happen to Matthew, and now here he comes again. Right? Yeah, I know that face, right? Purgatory, yeah, that's what we're talking about, right? That place of limbo that they created, right? And that comes from other cultures and all this stuff. But here, Yashra'al says, there ain't no limbo. Like, I'm coming, and I'm coming to what? With the sickle, I'm coming to harvest. I'm coming to bring things in. I'm coming to make sure that I take account of what's happened. Accountability according to what, though? According to the law, right? The law means that what? That I got to have some works. What? My works follow me in, but I have to have what as well? Faith. You see, it's telling you exactly what's going on. We are having these arguments with people. Yeah, the Grim Reaper, right? Sister Crystal, yeah. Like, we had these arguments with all these different people, and it's like, why are you arguing? Why are you trying to pull your own stuff? We don't have to be prophetic. We don't have to refigure this out. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. This prophetic wheel has been rolling. Hallelujah. That's great. And it says this, watch this. And another angel came out from the temple, crying with a loud voice to him. This is to the Son of Man, to Yashra'al, that sat on the cloud. And he said, thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. Now, didn't Yashra'al say that the harvest, right, is ripe, and the harvest is plentiful, right? But the laborers are few. And he says, so pray to the Lord of the harvest to send more laborers that'll come to be able to help. Your prayer should be that we can find more people that'll work with us, right? Not cut people off, right? Continue conversation. Here comes the angel. Hey, the harvest time. This isn't something new. This isn't anything new. We knew this was coming. Right? We might have had somebody try to take away from culture or have us in the place of not believing, just like what happened in Kemet, where you start being a slave so long that you start, you know the name and you know what you're supposed to be about, and you've heard these things passed down generations, but you ain't seen no freedom. So, why are you going to be free today? Here come Moses. Moses done some miraculous stuff, but I said, now I got to make straw without, or now I got to make bricks without straw. It don't seem like it's going to get better. Okay, now you done did your first two. Moses, come on now. You did your first two plagues, right? Even though it was Yah's plagues, but hey, all right, Moses, you doing some wild stuff out there, my boy. Like, you got it raining, you got frogs popping up, you got blood, scattered all over the place, but we got frogs and blood too. And they made the same thing. The magicians, they did the same thing that you did. I mean, you ain't really, I mean, I know you're doing some powerful stuff, but I just can't see it yet. Third and fourth plague happened. Well, all right, you doing some stuff that's cool, Moses, you know, and the magicians, now they can't hang with you anymore, right? You're getting better and better. They can't hang with you anymore, but it still affects us too. And the Most High starts separating stuff, and it's like the fifth plague comes up. Oh, wait a minute, okay, now, so you still doing the same stuff, but now it's not affecting us, but they still won't let us go. Sixth plague is not affecting us, but they still won't let us go. Seventh plague, I mean, we living pretty good now. I mean, they go dealing with some stuff, but they still won't let us go. Eighth plague, I mean, locusts done tore everything up, and we got stuff that's plenty, you know, but they still won't let us go. Ninth plague, man, you see it's dark over there. They can't even see it. We got brightness, we got food. We ain't had no, we haven't had any kind of plagues, or locusts, or anything for a minute. Man, we living better than the slave masters. But they still ain't let us go. 10th plague happens, you know, put the blood over your doorpost. And you know, there were some Israelites that saw all that stuff happen, still didn't put the blood over their doorpost. But there were some people in Kemet who saw all that stuff happen. Some of them didn't put it, but a lot of them said, you know what? We done seen too much of this, and we seem to be losing in this thing. Let's go ahead and put some blood on the doorpost. And they left out too. Right? You know, but we have a lot of people who, hey man, I haven't seen them show for the harvest, this and that, right? But you've been told the whole time it's coming. They showed you 1,260 years. They showed you what's going to happen with the Ottoman Empire being split from the Western Roman Empire, the Roman Catholic Church. They told you that Rome was going to be cut off, and now Rome is back. They told you not to change one jot or tittle. They've been telling you this over and over again. The prophets have been saying the same thing. It's time for us to get back with what we've been told. Right? Revelation chapter 1, verse 3. Blessed are those that read this and hear it, also those that keep it. Revelation chapter 5, the assembly of Sardis. Right? Blessed are those that receive this and have heard this and keep what they've received and heard. It's harvest time. John was out in the wilderness. They said he was crazy. He kept saying, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Man, that dude out there crazy. He eating locusts, and he carried, and he's not even trying to put on all the silk robes and stuff we do. He's out there calling himself a holy man. He don't even wear what we wear. He out there wearing, like, you know, bear skin and stuff like that, and goat skin and all types of wild stuff. All of a sudden he turned, though. He said, see the person I was talking about? See Yashra'al? See, I ain't even seen him since I was little. At least the Bible doesn't tell us they had any conversation. I ain't even really seen my man in a minute. I kept telling you he was coming. I ain't seen him since I was in the womb. I kept telling you he was coming. Now he's here. Right? You see what I'm saying? Don't get messed over where all of a sudden it's harvest time and you don't get harvested up. Come on now. Right? So verse 16, and he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle in on the earth, and the earth was reaped. So Israel has already been sealed. Israel is already in their place. Israel now has to preach a message to everyone. Israel preaches this message. Those who receive the message, he'll reach in and get them. So the remnant that's left that still needs to learn about who they are, and even those who are all over the earth, everybody has a chance now. He's gonna reach in his sickle. Right? It doesn't say that he went back and did this. It said, well, you could see kind of sort of like they used to go like this and you come through or whatever, right? But it says he reached in, and when you pull it out, whatever you reach in to get, when you pull it out, it's supposed to come out with you. He reached in and he pulled out what was there. Okay? He reached in and he pulled out what was there. All right? Verse 17, and another angel came out of the temple, which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar, which had power over fire, the spirit, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, the one that just came out after Yashra'al, after the Son of Man, saying, thrust in thy sharp sickle and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. Now, grape represents the wine and the wine press that was mentioned earlier, right? Those who are, so there's, Yashra'al has come looking for some people. Israel has already been sealed. People who are grafted in have now been reached in and gotten taken care of. What's going to happen to everybody else? It says, and this angel thrust in his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth. Now, it's interesting they use vine and they talk about the wine press. It says, and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of Elohim. Remember, so the people who are of the kingdom of darkness, who are about following the beast and making sure that they listen to the Antichrist spirit and make sure that they have the seal on their hands and on their forehead, right? What does it say? This authority that they carry, they were authorized to do whatever they want, do them, and follow what Satan said and all this stuff. It says, and the winepress was trodden without the city, and the blood came out of the winepress. So the winepress, this winepress, so basically this person reached in there with their sickle. This second angel rather came in, this angel that was besides the Son of Man, and his job, remember we had talked about this, there's an angel that's going to be released. There's an angel that has power over the pit, the bottomless pit, right? There's another angel now that's represented, and he's going to reach in, and when he reaches in, it says that there's a wine press. He's going to reach in and pull out stuff and put it in the wine press, and they're going to go all over the place. They're going to go from town to town. They're going to go from house to house. They're going to go from person to person. Everybody that's left who has not either been sealed or has not listened to those who had a message, right, for them. Listen to the people who were sealed, who had the message of the Most High. It says that everybody else who was left over, they were put in the wine press. And it said, even to the horse bridles. Now, the horse bridles, if you're not aware, you have a horse, right? You ride a horse, you put on a saddle on its back, and then it also has a bridle. The bridle is what goes on the head. When you see the stuff with the champ and all that, or the bit, and they're champing at the bit, and you see, you can pull, and you can pull to go left, and let it know you want to go right, and all these different things that are going on or whatever. You're dealing with. That even into the horse bridle. So even, and by the way, horses, remember we talked about the Israelite culture, whenever the horses were out, it meant you were at a time of war. So even the people that thought they were over us, they were warriors, they thought they were big, they were tough. The word wine or wine press, these grapes, it's talking about these people thought they were all that. If somebody has wine is more expensive, right, than beer. Wine is more expensive than water. Wine is more expensive than juice. Wine is more expensive than food. Right? Some people will go and have an experience and have a great steak and pay $200 for the steak and might pay $250 for the wine. Right? Like, wine is expensive. So the things that the people of this world hold as in high regard as being expensive, the Most High says those are the things that I'm going to throw into the wine press. And it says that this wine press is basically going to chop them up, but there's not going to be wine that comes out. These grapes, these people, when I put them in there, it's going to be their blood that gets shed. Even down to the horse bridle, even the things that they thought that they could use to be superior to other people and to control other people and be at war with other people, it's going to all be thrown in there. And by the space of 1,600 furlongs. And that basically is just saying it was a huge amount of space. If you don't know, so you have to do the math. I'm not going to do the math today, but just to give you, if you want to put this in your calculator at some point, a space of 1,600, that's 1,600, 1,600, 1,600. So if you were to put in a space of 1,600 furlongs, a furlong is something like 600, I think it's like 600 feet or so. So basically, if you were to do the math, a space of 600. Now, also too, a furlong was something that they used to measure stuff as far as a racetrack. Okay, so like a racetrack could be like a furlong, or like you could have a straight furlong, or if you had like a racetrack that went around for a long ways, maybe the racetrack could be, a nice sized racetrack. Maybe it could be like 10 furlongs, 20 furlongs, 50 furlongs, whatever. This says it's 1,600 furlongs. It's trying to say that basically the arena or the area of what's going to happen, the amount of people that are going to dismiss the Most High, think that what they're doing and have to deal with consequences is going to be a huge number, right? It's going to be something that's going to be hard to look at. It's going to be something difficult, more difficult to look at for many of us than any what do you call those? Y'all know what I'm saying? Horror movies. Any horror movie you look at, it's going to be something that's going to be wow. The destruction that's going to come is going to be crazy, so to speak. So that ends where we were at. Let me try and hit a couple comments real quick. We got to get ready to take our leave. I'm going to take a break, and then we'll be ready to come back for the podcast. With patience and consistency, Bismillah, Allah Akbar, all praises due. Okay, amen. Thank you, Sister Sonia. Said the time is at hand. Repent. Hallelujah. Amen. Said Muhammad, peace be upon him, learn. Moses, Musa, and Okay. Amen. I just read that. Thank you for the amens. The prophecies are happening now. We're living it now. Right. You got that sixth trumpet to the seventh trumpet. You got that second woe to the third woe. Yeah, I guess so. For a long, close to a cubit. Matter of fact, when it starts measuring heaven, it's going to start talking about cubits and stuff. So yeah, we're talking similarities. Now, it depends though, because a cubit, depending on whose culture, depending on what place, because some places in Israel, a cubit was like different than a cubit somewhere else. Amen. Thank you, Sister Beverly. So that's what we got through Revelation 14 today. We do have this on the recording. So feel free. Those of you who are on Podbean stuff, or Podbean, those of you who are on Patreon as well, we always remember you can ask some questions and stuff. I usually come looking for you guys first throughout the day for you guys, being a benefit and helping us the way that you do and what you're blessing us with. Said, how do you get access to the podcast? So the podcast, you have to have the Podbean app. Well, first of all, you can just look up the podcast, period, because you don't have to be on live to listen to the podcast, right? So just look for the Kofi Ofori podcast. My name, the Kofi Ofori podcast. If you want to listen live, so whenever I'm on live on the podcast, and I'm on live for every rising session, sometimes the evening sessions, and when we do special sessions, and when we do like the Shabbat Shalom podcast, which is only on Podbean only. If you want to join us live for those, then you have to have the Podbean app. That's Podbean, like a pod, peas in a pod, Podbean, the bean, right? Peas are the beans, a Podbean. So you just go to the Podbean app, and you can download that app. Once you download that app, all you have to do from there is, forgive me. Yeah, so once you download the app, then basically you just look for the Kofi Ofori podcast. Again, don't look up hashtag FindKofi. For whatever reason, it doesn't show up that way. So just look up the Kofi Ofori podcast. And what we might even change the name of it. I don't know, because maybe we should make I've been praying about that. Y'all pray with me. We've been looking at having more uniformity, so it's easier to find things. So we might just put hashtag FindKofi on that. But for right now, it's called the Kofi Ofori podcast on Podbean. If you just even type in Kofi Ofori, there'll be the two most popular ones, or two of us basically share the same name that'll pop up. You'll see our logo and everything looks just like my hair. You'll see all of that on there. And you can just follow that, and we'll be on at 10 a.m. Eastern New York time today. And then after that, we'll be on at 11 a.m. Eastern New York time for our meeting. And we'll try to go from there. So that's all I have for this rising. Thank you all for being on. I'm going to take a little break before we get ready to go on there. It's already 9:30 a.m. Eastern in New York time, so I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I did promise one person I was going to come back to if Henry is still on. I don't know. If not, he can follow, get it on the recording. And it said, he said, could you have a brief understanding on communion, or could I give a brief comprehension of communion? So communion is different than Passover. What it's become. To commune with the Most High is to, commune, have communication, do something communicative, have time together. As far as communion has become something different. Now you can have, technically you can do a Passover meal any day of the year if you want, but Passover itself is really technically, it's like Passover. When we do Passover, people call it Easter. Well, actually they call it Easter Sunday. They'll call it Good Friday. They'll do all this stuff. But for this year, for us, by the way, it's April 15th. And we'll be doing it. I forget what time it is. Where are we doing it again? Is it 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock p.m.? I can't remember. 8 o'clock p.m. It's on the calendar. If you want to go on to kofi-40.com to look it up. But communion has become something different than what Passover is supposed to be. So Passover is different. Communion has become this thing where people just do wine and juice or crackers, and now it's even become, a little wafer and a little tiny thing of juice. And that's for several reasons, none of them really having to do with what the Most High wants us to do. So we kind of stay away, or not kind of, we just stay away from communion. We could do some version of that, I guess, on a regular basis, but we're really supposed to only hold the whole, what I'm about to talk about for Passover in and of itself. The Passover meal is supposed to be something that we do. So you'll even see in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, everybody always goes to the verse and they say, on the day that he took bread and this and that, whatever, right? But they don't really focus on you know, on all the other stuff that's supposed to be as far as Passover, right? So they just be like, yeah, on the day that he took bread and did this and did that. And, you know, they'll even say little things in there. Like what got me thinking that things were weird personally was that you would see Paul say, you know, if any man hungry, then let him stay at home. I'd be like, hungry? You know, for these little crackers and this little cup of juice or whatever? Like, what are you talking about, right? Even if they give you the bread kind of fills you up a little bit, but you mean like people were coming to service just so they could eat? Like, I was like, you know, at the time, especially when I started thinking about it, I'm like getting on the bus and spending $1 and something to get there, $1 something to get back home, so I can get some juice and some crackers. That don't even make no sense, right? You know, so you have this weird comprehension of it because you're thinking culturally something different. At least I did. But Passover is different. Passover is supposed to be a meal, right? So they still kept the commandments. As much as people keep saying don't keep the commandments, that's why you do that's why people try to teach you Old, New Testament, things like that, right? And they try to teach you that Nicolaitan doctrine, whatever we want to keep, we'll keep. Whatever we don't want to keep, hey, that's old. And what happened was you had, you know, you had Passover that happened the night that we talked about, the night that the angel, right, came, the angel of death, right, if you will, even being sick with a sickle, so to speak, and came, and everybody that was of the Most High, they were saved. Everybody else, like that firstborn child, had to die. And then after that, they were able to get their freedom and things of that nature. So they had a quick meal. They were commanded to gather up their stuff. And a lot of times, even when we had the service, you know, a lot of times, like I'll put a coat on or something, you know, we put on our coats. We put on our shoes. We act like we're going to get ready to go. Sometimes right after we finish, we go outside, things like that. But we all, you know, get together, act like we're getting ready to leave because that's what had been done. What had been done then. They had lamb, you know, with no seasoning or anything on it. They had bitter herbs because they weren't trying to do this real big meal or anything like that. Like they were trying to make sure that they had something in their belly so that when finally when Pharaoh said, okay, it's time for us to go, we'll be ready to go. And even Kemetic people even were giving them some of their resources, just being like, please don't come back. Like, you know, these plagues are killing us out here. Like, just go somewhere. And so that's what every year they did after that. Every single year after that, they did the same thing over and over and over again. So when Yashra'al was at the table, and you see the pictures of it, even though that's a poor description of what it would look like, but nevertheless, when you see that famous picture of Yashra'al and he's at the table with the apostles and all that stuff and he's in the middle, really he would have been like an L shape and he would have been in the corner of the L shape, but nevertheless, and they would have been laying on their right hand sides, right? Because that's how we ate back then. We actually laid on our side and we ate. That's why they washed their feet. It wasn't like a ceremony of purity or anything like that. You wash your feet because you're probably going to eat. If you're going to eat, you know, and you laying on your side, you don't want your nasty feet, you know, to be getting dirt and stuff all over the table and near the food. So you wash your feet so that just like you wash your hands, you also wash your feet back then to be clean if you were a guest. That's why you would clean the feet of the guests, not only because it was a sense of making sure that they felt cool and cooling and comfortable, but also y'all would eat together. So, you know, you made sure that you ate. So your floor had to be clean, their feet had to be clean so that you could eat and not worry about certain things getting up on the table. Nowadays, people wouldn't even dream like eating like that, but I still eat on my side and stuff like that, not at the table. You know, I'm thinking about one day maybe if y'all bless me with something big enough, maybe one day we'll have a living room big enough or dining room big enough to where maybe we can have a whole bunch of people in there and everybody have enough space to be on their side. You know, I don't know if, you know, maybe we had their feet be lower to the table, but that was a different culture, right? So everything about it was different. So when you're talking about Passover is a different experience. Communion is something that's kind of came and they started, you know, because of also being cheap. You know, they didn't want to feed poor people and all these people because they, you know, they do communion sometimes every day. Some places they do communion every day. Some places they do communion every week. Some places they do it once a month, whatever, right? So if you're doing communion that often, you know, to put out a whole spread and put out meat and put out bitter herbs and, you know, make sure that you have, you know, drinks even, sometimes even vinegar would be something that you might have around. People would dip their stuff in vinegar just to make sure that they're reminded of how bitter the stuff was or whatever, or your dates or any of those things that you had. There was a lot to give. So they just started making it cheapening the experience. But they still gave wine, right? So they were giving wine, but then they get little crackers. Then after a time, wine is pretty expensive, and then you get people that are dealing with alcoholism and all this other stuff. So they started saying, okay, we can't have any type of alcohol whatsoever. And then people started preaching against alcohol because they didn't know that they just stopped doing it because it was cheap. Now, obviously, we're not supposed to get drunk, but they started treating alcohol as far as you can't have any wine, which is not true, because when Yashra'al would have been at the communion, he would have had wine. He would have had something that moveth in the cup. When it says don't have anything that moveth in the cup, it's talking about a specific, what would we call it today? Like a specific proof, percentage of stuff that's moving in the cup. But it's not saying you can't have anything. Heck, Yashra'al turned water into wine. It didn't mean he turned it into juice either, when you look up the definition of the terms they use. So hopefully that helps with that. That being said, though, now I'm down to about 20 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and get out your way, take a little bit of break before we get ready to come back on. We'll be back on a little bit for the podcast. If you want to join us on Podbean, that'll be on in about... Oh, hey, Shabbat Shalom, Darren. How you doing? So that we'll have our Shabbat Shalom podcast at 10 a.m. Eastern New York time. If you want to join us for that, that's something that's strictly on Podbean only. So if you want to join us, feel free to join us. We're thankful. We're grateful to each and every one of you. Once again, check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on. You can check her out on her. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at BloomNFlourish. Not A&D, but the letter N, BloomNFlourish. We thank you so much. We appreciate you, Kwam, Yashra'al. And as always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we're always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Take time out to listen back to this, or to take your notes that you've taken, whatever, and to pray about it, meditate on it, fast if you need to, so that you can not only have heard it, but you can execute it as well. Don't just be hearers of it, be doers of it as well. And until the next time I have a chance to be before you all, please remember as always that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be up it. Shabbat Shalom, family. Peace.